This man's journey is legendary. He doesn't just teach men how to get strong, he shows them how to become warriors of spirit. When I say be a man, what hits your gut first?
The first image that comes to me is my dad.
Toxic masculinity. What is this word all about? Your ideas.
The name is an attack. It's because they're trying to tear you down. Labeled toxic, and the men who are called toxic are actually displaying the very qualities that are best in the strongest of men, in the greatest leaders of men, in the most powerful patriarchs as men.
Let's talk about the Tate Effect.
The villain is always the most interesting character. We've been taught that our value is tied up in what we do. It's legitimate to feel, and then you had no choice because you were so burnt out to just be.
Hey guys, I'm recording this from my kitchen and just wanted to let you know that the recording with Elliot Hulse was a hard one because of the technical issues. I could hear him perfectly, but like watching him and looking at him at the video, he was lagging a lot. So you will see that the voice doesn't match the movement of his face. So it's like an old kung fu movie that way. So anyways, hope you enjoyed this podcast, and if you want to join the men's community that we're building, join it at skool.com, skool.com/freedude, and join our free community. It's only for men though, so hope I'll see you there. Take care. Enjoy the episode. So today we got a game changer in the house, Elliot Hulse. From crushing it as a pro strongman to helping millions of men level up their lives. This man's journey is legendary. He doesn't just teach men how to get strong, he shows them how to become warriors of spirit. Elliot, welcome to the show, brother.
My pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks. And I want to start off with, when I say be a man, what hits your gut first? Image, emotion, or instinct?
The first image that comes to me is my dad. My dad is a man. He's a man's man. He's a tough guy. He's challenging in all the toxic ways that a man can be, but he's also loving in the way even the Heavenly Father is described, meaning unconditionally. So I'm blessed to have come from a family that was intact, and I have a dad who was very different than most of my friends' dads. He grew up in Belize and kind of was without instruction. He ran around barefoot, climbing trees and running around on mountains and hills and just living a wild life. And as a result, you know, I think when he came to America, by then he was, almost 20 years old, he didn't endure the type of conditioning and brainwashing and subversion that generations of American men, Western men, had been under, which has basically made us all succumb to effeminacy, masculine weakness, softness. So my dad, he never got that conditioning. And when he was around American men, he wonders, like, what's wrong with these guys? Why are they so soft? Why are they so weak? Why do they think so much? Why do they have no faith? Why do their women push them around? So I've got a pretty good avatar for masculinity in my dad. And that's what comes to my mind first.
So the word toxic just like flew out of your mouth there, and I can't remember like the exact context, but it it brought me to like the word toxic masculinity that I'm hearing like so much. I don't even know what it is. And do you think it's like a psyop, or what is this word all about? Could you like share your ideas and understanding about toxic masculinity, this word?
Well, the name is an attack. It's name calling. right? And what do we know about name calling? When somebody's calling you a name, it's because they're trying to tear you down. They will take your natural traits and use it to twist it against you so that you could be ashamed about it. Kids do this all the time in the playground. Liberals do it as adults. They come up with titles and names that insinuate that you're of lesser value. So these traits that are labeled toxic, and the men who are called toxic are actually displaying the very qualities that are best in the strongest of men, in the greatest leaders of men, in the most powerful patriarchs as men. They're kingly qualities, divine qualities, qualities of our Lord. And in order to bring low the true value of masculinity in all of its dignity and majesty, they call the traits toxic. So it's an attack.
And what is the consequence of like having this attack floating around? What I feel from my point of view is that we are being scared or even maybe bullied into not embracing the traits that are natural to us.
Yeah. Well, look at the response. The response has been everything that they expected. We're living in at least 3 generations of effeminate men, men who have been taught that they need to sit down and be quiet and follow women because women have been oppressed. Women don't have a voice. Women have never been given the opportunity to excel, and that's the only reason why men lead. That it's by our violence that we've been keeping them down. And then in fact, they're even smarter than we are. They're better problem solvers than we are. Just look at the movies, look at the sitcoms, the 90s sitcoms I grew up watching, where the mom was always the hero and the dad was always a dummy. So all that kind of ideological subversion that begins in early school, coupled with, well, school plus the movies and the media and the music teaches us to be simps. I grew up in the 90s listening to like these love songs that make me cringe when I think about it right now. Yeah, they're horrible R&B. And I can't believe I used to like sing along to it. And like, I remember when I was a beta male because I believed all that shit. So the response is that we shrink and we cower and we capitulate to that attack because we've been told long ago that you don't want to speak up, you don't want to be strong, don't be assertive, don't speak your mind, sit down, shut up, get in line, and let Susie lead. So whenever you don't follow that paradigm, when you don't follow those rules, and they come out and say toxic, you freeze, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, I'm not following the rules. I'm following my own natural masculine instinct, and that ain't right. So they win.
Yeah, and from being beta male, what's one belief about masculinity you clung to in your 20s, maybe, that turned out to be complete bullshit? So how has your transition from, like, as you said, like being a beta male, I've been there myself also, and how has your journey been? And what are some of those beliefs that you just like that just turned out to be complete bullshit?
Yeah. So I use that term blue pill in the intersexual dynamics context, right? So red pill is an awakening that of the masculine understanding about the truth of intersexual dynamics and female nature that have been hidden from us for quite some time. We've believed into this, at least for the 3 generations since the 1960s in the US. at least. But it's baked in, and we were warned against it all throughout history, but particularly in the Bible. Don't be a beta male. Look at what happens. But, we live in a secularized world where the idea is do what the government and school and movies and media and your peers are doing. So we all swallow the blue pill, right? And we're not doing the right thing when we do so. On the contrast is understanding intersexual dynamics in that there is a primary, there are very different ways of being that women actually respond to that we've been told. So long story short, I'm giving you a long answer for a short answer. But the short answer is I was most beta male when I believed that women liked nice guys. That's a blue pill beta male mindset. A red pilled mindset understands that women like a thrill. They want the guy that's going to make them nervous, or the one that makes them question themselves, or the one that they're in awe of and excitement when they see him because his presence is so dominant and strong. They like men who are in the order of men higher up on the totem pole. Status, a guy who has status amongst other men, a man who has means, right? But we've been trained to overinflate how important means is, money is. Money's not nearly as important as status. So here you have generations of men who believe the opposite. They believe that women want them to be nice and to give them lots of money and provide, when that's the most boring thing in the world to female nature. They might appreciate that because it is comfortable, but they're not turned on by it. They're turned on by thrill. And so rather than being a nice guy with my girl or wife all the time, by capitulating and pandering to her emotional swings and doing chores and bringing home money and thinking that that's why she should fuck me, the more resourceful approach would be to carry yourself with dignity and authority and tell her we're having sex. See the difference?
Yeah. And so let's talk about the Tate effect. What does his rise really tell us about masculinity today? I'm so curious to hear what your ideas are.
That we're lost. I don't know too much about Tate. I just know he got really popular with young men. And there's a good reason why. He demonstrated a side of masculinity that was for a long time not okay. That's what we've been told by the majority of our brainwashers. And he kind of threw that in the face. And he was like, no, I'm going to be a bad guy. He's going to be a villain. And the villain is always the most interesting character in the superhero story. He's always got a bone to pick. He's always got something that's pissing him off. And he's not satisfied with just saving people or saving the day. He wants to fuck shit up. And he's got a big mission in mind, like Gru when he wants to steal the moon in Incredible Me. He's kind of a Gru. Tate is kind of a Gru in that he's disgruntled with the way shit is, and he's talented. He can build a rocket ship, and He's charismatic. So he's going to enroll you in trying to take over the world like a villain. And it's exciting to follow a villain, especially a villain with charisma, right? That you can get behind. The problem with the villain, though, although he'll take you for a ride, and again, like the men that follow Tate, and I'm making broad statements here, but they're exercising their effeminacy in that they're chasing a thrill the same way women want men that give them a thrill. The boys that are watching him, they're getting a thrill by his language and the things he does and the things that he says. And they feel like a bad boy when they watch him because he's a villain. He's doing the opposite than the world says, and he's got a mission. And so he's compelling. And so they want to follow him. But just like Gru and all the other bad guys who try to take over the world with a chip on their shoulder, it's their very lack of virtue that sees them lose at the end. In the end, it's why were you doing this all that time? Like you're a brilliant genius, you're a genius superhero or supervillain. How would they say, like, you know, like a genius supervillain? Like these guys are really smart. They're usually smarter than the good guys. And you use that as a weapon, and you use your charisma as a weapon to get back at the bad guys. I think Tate would call it the Matrix. Get back at the bad guys, get back at the Matrix. But out of that sentiment, at some point, you're going to have to confront the wounds that have caused you to go on that journey. My anger at how my mother was, my anger at all the girls that dissed me when I was young. Oh, I'm not good enough for you now? Well, fuck you now. I'm rich. The patriarchs, the fathers that you have disdain towards because of his absence, that you resent because of his being either too tough, too aggressive, or too much of a pansy. Because both dads lose, especially when you're a villain, because a villain is always a victim. So either his dad was too tough, so I resent him, or my dad wasn't there, so I resent him. So it's all born out of these unresourceful vices and attachments and emotional disturbances and trauma that allows this wave of Tate to take over. How's that sound?
Yeah, I got you there. And I would love to elaborate on like this huge question mark we men today have. We don't know what to follow, what is masculinity, what is the model that we could like emulate or try to act as if. What do you think we should start striving for? Because I guess you see a lot of bullshit within like men's work, like a lot of bad ideas, bad tips and tricks and strategies. So what would your like path to be a holistic man, or what would you call that? Like a strong man, a holistic man, a happy man, a fulfilled man. What are we aiming for as men? And how does that path look?
The word I would choose, as you were fumbling through a few, is how do we become the patriarchs that we're called to? You know, the feminists, they keep saying that they want to tear down the patriarchy, and it makes you wonder why. What do you mean by patriarchy, and why do you want to tear it down? Not realizing that Western civilization built what we could call Christendom out of Christianity, the Catholic Church, which just received a new papa, a new pope. Pope comes from papa, papa, father. Father is where we get the word pater, Pater is the root of patriarch, paternity, patriotic, right? Father. So if we're aiming for something significant, something that's going to bring us back to our roots and make us the strong men that we're actually called to be, it's as fathers. That's the pinnacle of mature masculinity. Not a man that just blows his load and makes babies with his baby batter, but a patriarch is what we want to be. A patriarch is a king. And all of Western civilization has rebelled against not just the church, but patriarchy through Enlightenment ideals, which are all a subversion. And it's not just against the cross, it's against the crown. Because the crown and the cross work together in Western civilization, in Christendom. So an attack on God is an attack on God the Father, yes, but it's also an attack on political kings, but that majesty pours down into fatherly kings, kings in your home, good leaders in companies, good leaders in the community. So the ultimate is like to be a king. But the king in this day and what we have at our disposal is actually the father. But like the divine father, like the fully self-actualized father, like the 4/4 father. Robert Moore, who was a neo-Jungian, meaning that he took a lot of the symbolisms and ideas and frameworks of Carl Jung and elevated them to a different day and time or in a different context. He took Jung's quadrated psyche that's associated with thinking, feeling, being, and doing as the 4 things that makes a man whole. Like you can't do, well, doing is one of the 4. Like you have to be engaging in one of those. You're either thinking, feeling, being, or doing. Well, he superimposed that upon mythical language and called it king, warrior, magician, lover. The king, everybody wants to know, being sovereign over all, in Jung's metaphor or his framework is found in being. Being. Not what you do. How many times we measure ourselves as men as to what we do? That's the first thing that we ask each other, like, oh, what do you do? What do you do? We've been taught that our value is tied up in what we do. Or how many times someone will ask you, how do you feel? Right? Which is important. I think been overemphasized in the West, which has turned a lot of boys real soft, where, you know, feeling is over facts. But you would acknowledge, and most people would acknowledge that, like, it's legitimate to feel. And how many times are we asking ourselves, or engaging in thinking, right? You're thinking. Each of those is magician, king, and magician, lover, and warrior. Warrior's doing, magician's thinking, lover's feeling. The being aspect is the king. And there's a strange thing about being, because being is not doing, it's not thinking, it's not feeling, it's otherworldly. It's beyond the senses. It's beyond activity. It's a state, a pure state. And in that state, well, how is your state is really an important thing to ask, but it's found in that state that everything unfolds in your life. You are sovereign over the other aspects of your life by how you're being in any situation. And that's why it's the king quality. How are you being in any situation? I know I'm going way off in left field, but you're asking me about how do we become the best men we're supposed to become? We're supposed to be kings. We're supposed to be. We're supposed to be sovereign over our senses, our feeling, doing, and acting and thinking. And as such, be fatherly over the people and the things in our world, a patriarch. So that's my little poem on that. You got to be a father. You got to be a patriarch. You got to be a king.
All right, being a king, and the road to being a king. How does that look like?
Well, the very first thing we can ask ourselves is, what is it not?
Yeah, what is this not?
That's the first question we have to ask ourselves. In fact, that is like the easiest way to get to the understanding of God. I forget the term that they use in Greek, but it's approaching something by looking at what it's not. And a lot of times that gets us to much closer to what it is. The king quality is very divine. And that's why it's so hard to define. That's why it's so hard to define what we are as men, because we're sons of God. We're kings. So we've been sort of, because it's, as I'm saying, sort of challenging, it's easy to manipulate. So let's go back to what it's not. That way we won't be manipulated, because we're always manipulated by the things that it's not. It's not doing, right? We already established that. That's the warrior. But how many of us are doing things in order to win love? How many of us are actively taking action in all kinds of frantic ways in order to make the money that we think we deserve? How often are we just doing out of pure fear? Like, I just can't sit still. I got to go do something. And so we get ourselves into trouble. Doing can be reverted. So it's not the king quality. It's the shadow magician. It's the shadow warrior. The shadow warrior, doing, overdoing, overworking, caught up in activity. That's not how we get to the king. You don't get to the king through activity and through doing anything. It's not doing. If we look at thinking, right, the magician quality, can you think yourself to being a king? Well, it's a little bit closer than doing. You can think yourself there. You can reverse engineer. You can train yourself to think a bit more sovereign, but it's still out of a sense of control. You're doing the thinking. You're using the thinking as a manipulative way to reverse engineer what you think a king should be. Because if you're thinking, it's a figment of your imagination. And so it's all born of your mind. It's all born of your ego. It's not truly being. It isn't divine. It's a part of the ego. So you get a lot of guys who are very schizoid that learn like pickup artistry, and like they become Don Juans, but they're not actually Don Juans. They're just really good at following the rules. They reverse engineer. They're so clever. They're magicians in their ability to get the things that they want, but yet they're still not being, because it's an activity. And then feeling, we know, will only get you so far, because feeling can be perverted easily. Most of our feelings are perverted based on trauma. If you spent your life trusting your feelings on everything that crossed your path, you'll be lost. You'll be like a ping pong ball going back and forth and all messed up. Imagine you lived your life purely on feeling. That would be a mess. And of course, you'd lean a lot more feminine. And we don't need any more women. They outnumber us already. So why not lean into your masculine virtue? Which, when we come back to the top and you're talking about the king, and now you ask me, how do you make that happen in your life? Once we drop doing, drop thinking, and drop attachment to our feelings, what's left? Pure being. And that might confuse you. You might say, okay, Elliot, then what do I do as a pure being? How do I act as a pure being? What do I think, and how should I feel as a pure being? That's all born out of fear. But if we allow ourselves to have faith and believe in God's grace and have mercy on ourselves by not thinking that we have to do everything with our wills, then everything that proceeds from us, every action that we take, every decision that we make, will come from pure stillness. And as the Buddhists describe it, it could only be right action. You can only take right action out of pure stillness, pure grace, pure faith. That is God. So to be a king, we got to lean on the king. We get our sovereignty from above. So it's got to be God's will. That's how we become a king. And this is what the ancients understood. They understood this, that a good king is one that God pours his graces out into the kingdom through. And if he fails, off with his head. It isn't that a king like King David in the Bible, what made him such a powerful king wasn't because he was talented, but he was the youngest. It wasn't about him, let me put it this way, because he was a fallen man and he sinned. It was because he always turned his face to God in everything that he did. The entire book of the Psalms are his prayers saying to God, I trust you. I trust you, God. Like we're about to get run over. I trust you. Things aren't going well. I trust you. Things are going amazing, but I'm not going to forget you. God, I screwed up, but I believe in you. Restore me to your good graces. I believe you will. God, you'll never turn me down. He's speaking to his Lord. He's having conversations with his king. And thus, he pours majesty into his kingdom. He's a conduit for God. How many times can we get out of the way and allow ourselves to be conduits of God into our families, into our businesses? I get in the way all the time of my business. I'm my worst enemy when it comes to business. Because there's too many things that I know and too many things that I can do. Things are best. I am king when I let go and I allow God's grace to carry me through trust and prayer. I know you got me, Lord. I believe in you. I trust in you. I've seen your blessings in my life. I let go. Let your will be done. Let your love pour through me. And that's how we behave. That's how we be as a king.
And are there, so like when I hear you speak, my mind goes into like the states I've experienced in deep meditation, like for a Vipassana, for example, like during the eighth day when like everything just went silent, I felt just like completely one with everything. And I was in this state of being. Do you have like any practices, habits, or routines that brings you closer to this state of being the king?
Oh,
But
man.
then I'm speaking about doing again, but do you see what I'm getting at? That I need
Yeah,
to do
it becomes
something in order
frustrating.
to achieve this state, or can I? So how do you do it?
So I love that. I love that. Allows me to pontificate a little bit more and keep
Thanks.
philosophizing because I'm having a lot of fun today. So Alan Watts would say that what your question is like trying to touch this finger with the tip of this finger. How would you
Yeah.
touch this finger, the tip of this finger with this finger? Or how can you see your own eyes without a mirror? Right? We're trying to do the thing that we are. And that's why self-help doesn't make any sense. So the question is born out of how can I how can I change myself? How can I touch the tip of my finger with this finger? By doing something, right? So like we want to hack it with a meditation. And you're not wrong, you're right. Meditation is key. But the paradigm is important. Are we taking up meditation like it's self-help? Like we do like a class in aerobics or going to a CrossFit class or any kind of self-help book advice, right? Like, are we doing it in terms of like, I'm now going to take this tool and I'm going to use it to change myself? Or is it a recognition of the truth of your being? So meditation, when it is simply a resting in the truth of your being, is a very different paradigm from which I need to go and fix myself with meditation. I need to go and do something so I can manipulate myself so that I can be a king. Both of them are the same activity, but they come from different sentiments. So I just want to be careful when we use that word meditation.
Yeah.
I want to approach it from the context of, rather than it being a doing, it's a recognition of the truth of your being. And then it allows us to go deeper, because you're not approaching it from the warrior, which is like, okay, do another thing. You're not doing it from the magician who's like, I think this is the one that will work. This makes perfect sense. It's logical. It's not coming from the feeling aspect of, well, at least when I meditate, I don't feel so anxious. Those are all self-help aspects of it. The true position is, am I allowing myself to be the truth of what I am? And that is in conversation with God. A meditation can't be you alone. Otherwise, it doesn't capture the full truth and your power is diminished. Meditation, as Catholics would describe it, is more like mental prayer. So you have to you have to present yourself in your meditation in a slightly different way. You're not just blanking your mind, you're sitting in the presence of Christ. You're sitting in the presence of God. That means your meditation isn't just a solitary exercise, it's a conversation. Your thoughts, in the Buddhist context, are to be seen as just clouds. And you just let you let the clouds go by. And you don't engage, which is great for self-help. But it's not the true power of mental prayer or this kind of meditation, Christian meditation. It's good for self-help, but it doesn't help us tap into what? The divine. To meditate is to be in communion with God so that the king can guide your steps. So I like to call it throning. When I talk to my students, I tell them we're throning. We're not meditating, we're sitting on the throne. And the throne is always pointing up high, and you always sit on it with a crown that has arrows that are pointing to the sky. Your throne is like a receiving station. They're like antennas. You're putting up your antennas so that you can commune with, like, well, God, but I'm trying to use this analogy, like the frequencies of God. So you got to dial yourself into the frequency of God when you sit on your throne. Otherwise, you're just doing self-help and you're just causing your mind to blank out, which there's value to that too. But it's not the power of the king inside you. We want to be kings. So you got to sit on your throne. And there's some things that you can do while you're sitting on your throne to help remind you whose presence you're in. So just sitting and knowing that you're in the presence of an all-loving creator, an all-loving God, unconditional in his love and support for you and his desire for you to be your strongest you. Like, God knows you on the straight and narrow path. And when I say straight and narrow path, I don't mean just following the commandments, although that may be a part of it. The straight and narrow path is the plan that God had for you before you became you, like your perfect life. And you're sitting in the presence of the one that knows your perfect life. Like he's there with you. Are you just going to blank your fucking mind? Or are you going to want to tap into that? The one that knows the perfect me and what my life actually should be, minus all my deviations, my sins. I want to check in with him. And so it has to be a conversation. It's a relationship. And without getting like too step by step, because that can become a mind fuck too. Teresa of Avila would remind us that any process will do. But there are some helpful crutches you can use, like maybe pondering a verse from the Bible and then posing it to God and saying, what does this mean for me in my life? And then listening, waiting and listening for him to speak into you in that moment. Like keep paper and a pen nearby. Meditating and journal go together. They have to, because it's a two-way conversation and God may be revealing things to you. You don't always know if it's his voice or the voice of your ego. And that's why it's good to discern. Write it down and come back to it later. But sometimes when you ask God a question, when he places the impulse in your body, you know what you need to do next. But that can only, and we live in a world where men are so unclear and have such lack of direction and don't know what to do. That's like the biggest question that I get from a lot of my clients is, Elliot, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. I don't know what my path is in life. I don't have any clarity. I need direction. Well, have you asked your king? Have you listened and looked at what he's showing you in your life? No, anything but that. I'll ask ChatGPT. I will go on Google and watch YouTube videos. I'm gonna, ask my friends and see how they feel. And even when people come and talk to me, they think I'm gonna give them an answer. I'm gonna have the perfect answer, but it's not. Because God's answer for me is different than his answer for you. And so you gotta go and you gotta explore and you gotta be honest with yourself about the truth. And that's really what that's the whole point of this, right, dude? Free dude?
Yeah, dude. No, because I can see myself so much in what you're saying, and I've been trying like to, yeah, do the chat GPT, go and ask for question, what is my path, and go to Tony Robbins seminars and reading Eckhart Tolle. It's like it makes so much more sense because this is starting to hit me now when I turned 41, that I need to just like relax a little bit, just stop it because I've been in the fucking doing too much. I gotta create the brand and the business and the kids, and I'm gonna be self-sufficient and just like, but the path didn't come until I just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna stop doing anything. And it actually came where I feel that I'm on the path right now.
Yes.
It came from being so burnt out that I stopped giving a fuck about anything. I was
Yeah.
just like so sick and tired of myself, of everything and everybody. I was like, stopped people pleasing. And I said, like, I don't give a shit about anything. And that is when I accidentally start just what you're describing here. But I haven't even thought about that. That is what's been happening these last 2 years for me. And life has
Yeah.
become like so much better, but like it starts to make sense. I'm super appreciative of this conversation and that you went here also. So thank you for that.
You're tapping into the king. You're doing it. That is the perfect example of how we become more of who we're meant to be. You allowed yourself to crumble and fall after all of the challenges, and then you had no choice because you were so burnt out to just be. And that's the only time that God can actually work his grace. And so if you're a lot like me, I have to push myself to the limit till I can't go anymore. When I'm so freaking exhausted, then I say, okay, God, I can't do it. Take over. And that's when the grace pours in every time. It's amazing.
Yeah. But do you still fall back on into the doing? Because I can see like you have that intensity, you have that drive, you have that like fire in you that you are. But how do you balance that in your own life, or do
It's
you just like
been
run until you hit the wall
yes,
and God comes and saves you?
yes. I
Yeah.
literally and figuratively run into walls.
All
Like
right.
legit run into walls. Like I would and punch walls and smash through barriers. I played football and I used my head to smash into the other players before it was illegal. Like
Yeah.
I'm a smasher. I smash through goals and I go fast. I have no fucking patience. I have an idea. There's something I want, or worse, I'm afraid. And I'm like an animal tearing. And I have talent and I have charisma and I know how to do shit. And I have a huge fucking ego. So I think I can do it on my own. I just got to cut back on sleep and take more amphetamines. And I got this, bro. Yeah, that's been the
Yeah,
story of
baby.
my life.
Ah,
The story of my life. And all this, I can legitimately call it wisdom now. And this has been God's plan from the beginning. But everything, all the wisdom that I just delivered to you, whether, the audience is able to receive it or not, is lived experience. It sounds like, highfalutin philosophy. And I love talking in metaphors and I love all that language, but it's all bullshit compared to smashing your face against the wall and getting so bloody that you just got to sit down and say, God, take care of me. Take care of me and do it all.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that has been the greatest lesson for me, I'd say, in all transparency, just this last year. Like I just finally got it. I'm 46 and now I'm like, now I get it. So only time will tell.
Oh, that's beautiful. And you're 46 and you're saying, I just got it. I'm getting like you got it. But I always feel there's a new level of awakening. I thought I woke up like when I was 18. I figured
Mhm,
things out. Like I read the Art of Happiness with Dalai
mhm,
Lama, and I was like, okay, I got this. I know what life is about.
mhm.
And there's so and in the self-help industry we are like just throwing around this word like red pill. You mentioned like red pill, and you're like these people are awake and these people are asleep. What is awakened for you?
Well, I'm happy that you said for you because a lot of what you're saying resonates and it has nothing to do with reading more books, right? Because that's where we all go out of control. And it's great. We have
Yeah.
information, but I'm like you. I'm reading these books and I'm understanding the ideas. In other words, I accept the ideas and I think that I'm making some progress, but it's not true. There's no progress until it erupts inside you. Like it has to be lived experience. And that only comes with time and God's grace. And time is not linear. You can wake up very young, and usually there are those who've had the most challenging lifestyles, challenging childhoods. They get a lot of wisdom really freaking quick. And so they're at a different level of wisdom. But it's not going to be about anything that you assent to or believe. It has to be something you know. And if you're anything like me, I don't know anything until I can do it and feel it and experience it. I don't just take things very easily on faith. I have to feel the pain. I got to get in the boat. And so that's the way it is for me. I know there's other people who they can learn from other people's mistakes and they can ascend by reading and they can have mystical experiences. And maybe that wakes them up. But me, it's on the battlefield. I got to fight with myself and the demons.
And on this point, you've had like a YouTube channels for from when YouTube started, I think.
Mhm.
Like you were like one of the like the first, if I would call it like self-help or personal development personalities out there. So, what are men particularly saying that they are getting help with from watching your content, and especially like during the last 2 years?
More than anything, my videos and presence are a mirror for what men are already experiencing or already know. I'm not really teaching anything brand new, but I show up and I can be a mirror for you. And that's what I hear from most men. They say, damn, Elliot, why is it that every time you upload a video, it's the exact problem that I'm dealing with? That's what I hear more than anything. And now, like, people just they chalk it up or they give it up to God's grace. They're like, wow, like God knows I needed to hear this. More and more of that. And when I speak one-on-one with my guidance clients, it's not because I'm spitting philosophy like I'm doing with you here right now, because I'm jabbering my jaw and having a good time. It's because I'm listening and creating a sacred space for the man to be seen and to be heard. And if I can reflect, meaning show you how I've struggled too, then our bond grows that much deeper. But if I have a word of wisdom, maybe an insight from God, the Holy Spirit, and I can pass you a word that might encourage or keep you going, then I'm available for that too. And sometimes that happens as well. But it's not about answering questions. It's not about being more clever. It's not about having the best resources or being able to quote scripture. It's about being. And that's the greatest value that I bring. It's my being.
I'm super curious here about like how you combine being, because I also sense that in your content, in your videos, and that is the one thing I really appreciate. I know other like famous self-help people that you know, like Owen Cook, that is what they are also like appreciated with you, that you have the like that being. Is not that you can recite poems or quotes from the Bible or whatever. And so how do you combine that with creating the messaging, the packaging, the business of helping men getting stronger again?
So that's it. I mean, there's a lot to that. And I will say this. I've spent the majority of my career answering that very question. I spent most of my time on marketing and sales, writing copy, positioning, um, building frameworks, trying to deliver services, and essentially creating a business, right? That's really the question that you're asking.
Yeah.
You agree? How do you
Yeah.
turn this, make this into a business? And so, I am who I am, no matter how evolved or immature I am at what stage, right? Like you are your essence. And so I know that I've been gifted, even when I was very stupid or less wise, let me put it that way. So I spent a lot of time wrestling with those questions and trying to make those things happen. And I understand that stuff thoroughly. And I could answer that question with frameworks and strategies and different tactics for social media and influence and shit like that. But that shit is cheap. You can get that from Alex Hormozy. Like he has all the
Yeah.
answers. Like it's true. Like, hey, he's smart.
Yeah. 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 I love that guy.
But that's not what made me successful.
Oh.
And I just had to be honest with myself because for a long time, I couldn't accept that what made me successful was my presence, my being. And I take no credit. Okay, I take a little bit of credit, but most of the credit I don't take. It's purely by God's grace. God created me to be this way. He wanted me to be a prophet. He wanted me to speak to the people. My gift of charisma comes from my dad. My dad is animated when he talks, and he's very passionate with his words. My good looks come from my mother. She's got blue eyes. My courage, this is going to sound strange coming from a Christian, but I think that there's validity in the patterns of astrology. I'm an Aries. I'm meant to lead. Aries is ruled by the head. Everybody knows my face, even though I'm a body guy. I'm fiery. I'm the starter. I lead the way. Like, there's no question about it. Did I make that happen? Did I study another Hormozy book to be that? No. I was making YouTube videos way before, but I did study a lot from Dan Kennedy, which was his mentor, and Russell Brunson, right? So I know
Yeah. Oh,
marketing.
geez.
So I used to think that like it was somehow based on my will that God put me in the position that he is because I understood marketing and sales and stuff like that, which did help. But the real freedom and effectiveness came and does come, meaning I've experienced this in my life in the past, and I've like assented to it and I accept it and I realize, okay, it's true now. Like, it took me a long time to say, okay, yeah, it's true now. Has been all by God's grace. And that's why I'd be lying out of my face if I told people, hey, hire me or buy my course and I'll teach you how to get the results that I've got. Because I can't. Because I can't make anybody else be what they're not. I'm just me. If you're supposed to be on YouTube, if you're supposed to be in social media, if you're supposed to garner the attention of a crowd, you will. Because it's God's will. Learning tactics and strategies is good, but if you're not meant to be an influencer, you're not meant to be seen and, like you and me, then no matter how many tactics or strategies you use, you're not going to get the same results. But even if you're a complete retard when it comes to branding and marketing and sales and stuff like that, but it's God's will that you be seen and that you be heard and that you lead, you can't stop it. And that's a hard pill to swallow because it sounds like fate. And I think the only way to really, at least for me, because I got to see, and so that I could assent towards fate, is just look at my life in retrospect and look at the people beside me. I'm like, damn, we didn't do this. I didn't do this. I showed up, was consistent, and did what was in front of me. But it was always presented by God's grace.
This boggles me a bit because, like, it feels like a really deterministic life view, uh, and you have also the Islamic saying that everything is maktub, it's already written, and how do we balance that between, like, this is God's plan, this is what the stars wanted for you, and okay, what is my little part to be, like, have this free will to start creating my life? How do we balance, like, these two ideas, or how do you do it?
It's so funny. There's a phrase in that is like repeated in the Old Testament, and then I think we see it again in the Gospels. It always looks like this. So in the Old Testament, I think it was Samuel, the prophet, when he was a kid, And God started talking to him when he was sleeping, but he didn't know it was God. He didn't know it was God. So he asked his dad, like, Dad, were you talking to me? And his dad was like, no. But every time God spoke to him, there was a phrase that he used. He said, here I am. God spoke to him, Samuel. Samuel says, here I am. And I think in one of the gospel, I think it was a gospel reading of today, but I read in the gospel, I don't remember. I think it was Paul when he goes blind after getting knocked off his horse. And God says to him, Paul, and he goes, here I am. Here I am is the most important thing. Be fully present in your fullness in every moment to answer to God's grace. You'll know what to do because you'll be doing it. That's what one of my teachers said. She said, don't try to do something before you're doing it. You'll know what to do because you're doing it. But the only way to know what to do in order to do it is what? Be present. Here I am. One of my dad's favorite lines is, he says it a lot of different ways. One of the ways he says, as long as you get up every day and work, everything will work out fine. That's what he says. As long as you get up every day and do your work, everything will work out fine. No planning, no trying, no. He says, just get up and do what's in front of you. That's the other way he says it. He says, just get up and do what's in front of you. If you get up and do what's in front of you every day, you'll be fine. He also says discipline and consistency are the most important thing. So if you're disciplined enough to show up every day to take care of what's in front of you consistently, you can't fucking lose. If you wake up every day and say, God, here I am, do with me what you will, and I will follow the prompts. I will follow the smell. By doing what's in front of me, you can't lose. He wants to guide your steps. The problem is we want to guide our steps based on what we see on Instagram. We want to guide our steps based on what we think girls want. We want to guide our steps based on what our wife wants. We try to guide our steps based on trauma and inordinate desires, immature desires. We want to direct our steps through our fallen nature. And so we're always going to err. We're always going to fail. We're always going to screw up. Even if it seems like you're succeeding by the world, remember, God is the only one that sees the perfect path for you. There are those whose life looks great on the outside, but they're damned to hell because on the inside, they're way off course from what God actually had planned for them. There are guys that are do-gooders. There's a lot of these Christian do-gooders who spend their life doing good when God never required them to do all that damn good. I know a lot of like Christian pastors that do this. Like I know guys literally like their families are like not doing well, but they're so busy doing good in third world countries on missions and shit. Think they're doing the Lord's work. No, you're not. You're not taking care of what's in front of you, your family. You're reaching out and trying to do something grandiose. So we know that we're always on God's path if we do what God lays on our path. And if you want to know what's on your path, look at what's in front of you.
So we look at what is in front of us, and you spoke about like God's grace, and I'm really curious about like how does that feel in your body? What are the sensation you are feeling when you feel that you are in God's grace and you know that okay, I am here? Because we live in this dopamine prison where we have like the iPhones and all like these stimulations, and we are addicted to food and coffee and drugs and what it's just like everywhere. You can't even go to a restaurant without music playing, without like the retarded love songs that you mentioned earlier. Uh,
Yeah.
so like and you are speaking a lot about like the Bible and the prophets, and I see this common thread when the prophets get a message, or when the angel Gabriel is like coming to them or in front of them, or uh, they are often in a long period of time out in the desert. They are by themselves.
Yeah.
And is that like the way, now I'm talking about like doing, or the path to come to be in presence or be in God's grace?
Yeah.
Like that's one question. How do you move more towards that? Because I feel that I'm like more like connected, if you would, like, quote unquote, when I'm living now on the countryside, besides living in the city of Stockholm, where like I was like bombarded like 24/7 with sounds and so many things to do. When I'm here out in the woods, there's nothing to do, and I feel like I can be more, do you call it like synchronized, like things just like falls into place
Yeah.
gracefully, and
Right.
life becomes like much more easier. I feel that life is like much more. I enjoy life so much more this way. So that's like those two questions. How do you know when you're in God's grace, and what is the path to like get more connected to that?
So this is straight out of the book of Hulse. Like, this is just me.
Yeah, it's your
I
book we want to read tonight.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know that when I have no feelings, that when I'm behaving neutral, that I am more open to God's grace.
All
There's
right.
two ends of the spectrum where neutral would be in the middle. There would be acting out of fear, and that leaves a feeling, an anxious feeling, an excited feeling, uh, unsettled feeling. But also, and I often think that it's also fear, but it manifests itself in a different way, elation. If there's too much elation, too much excitement, too much happiness, too much grandiosity in building castles in the sky, that is also the whispers of Satan taking us off the middle path. The middle path is calm, not angry, not elated, but neutral. And that's a tough thing. That's a tough state to get into when you live in a world that's addicted to dopamine, like you said. Because if you're anything like me, it's easy and almost addicting to act out of fear. I don't have enough. I'm not being enough. I'm not going fast enough. Right? Why don't I have what he has? Why am I behind? Well, where is the money? So if ever the action is born out of fear, it's usually around one of those issues. Or why doesn't she love me? Right? Depending on, you and your situation. So whatever you do, if you think, if you're trying to discern whether this is God's grace and how I should, my predisposition or my disposition to accept it, if there's fear, you got to wait. Don't take action out of fear. It may be true that you need to do what you think you need to do. It may be true, but the sentiment from which it proceeds is faulty. You're acting out of fear. And we spoke about that a little bit earlier. The sentiment
Yeah.
is what's really important. But also, if I'm doing, and which is, we talked about dopamine, that's an addicting thing. Like that, you could be addicted to doing shit out of fear. So I was being redundant because I forgot what I wanted to say, but yeah, that was it. It was fear. It was dopamine. Dopamine. Dopamine is stimulated when you feel fear, especially when you're a man who thinks that you need to solve the problem and you get a high out of now taking action, doing activities, building another website as quickly as I can, or taking another course and try to speed through it as fast as I can. Right? Building another funnel. right? Creating another product. I'm going to make another course. You get it.
I hear myself.
Yeah. It's all dopamine out of fear.
Yeah.
And the same thing on the
Fuck.
other side. You know, if it's too exciting, it might be pride. If it's too exciting, it definitely stimulates pride because then it's like, oh, how am I now going to do this? And usually I forget God at that point. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it. Thank you. I don't need you anymore. I got my answer. I'm gone. That's been my natural way of doing things. Please God, give me your grace. Show me what to do, how to do it. I just want to please you. Here it is, my son. Great, thanks. I'm out of here. And then I forget about him until I'm all fucked up again. And I'm like, wait a second, I'm sorry, I
It's like
forgot
a
you.
kid coming and asking for his allowance and just like, "Bye, dad."
Exactly what it is, man.
Give me the
So it's
cheese.
peace. The feeling should be peace. If you're not feeling peace,
Mm,
you're not in God's grace.
mm.
And I know you asked a second question, which is like, how do you get into that state, right?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you get into that state? It's our natural state. That's the crazy thing. Like, you don't have to achieve it. That's the crazy thing. You don't have to go get it. And I'm saying that facetiously because, in a way, you do. But I think the paradigm that's important is it's actually your natural state. It's actually the way you were born to be. And it's less about trying to achieve that and more about removing what's hindering you from that grace. And boy, oh boy, the word is distraction, really. The world is full of distractions. I like that word distraction. This is something cool that I made up. I saw this. So, the same way I use that analogy of your perfect life being a straight and narrow road, not the straight and narrow road, like, you got to follow somebody else's rules, but like the straight and narrow road for your DNA. Like, God is like, this was your straight and narrow road. Um, what the heck was I going to say? I forgot. I'm doing too much yap.
Distraction.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Thank you. See, I got distracted. I got distracted myself by talking about distraction.
Yeah.
Funny how Satan works. I don't blame him for everything.
Yeah.
That was me. It was my own ADHD. So that's a track. That's the perfect track. I love the idea that that's a track. And every time we go off that track, it's a distraction. Every single one of our sins is a distraction. It takes us off the track that would be perfect for you and me. So if we want to be walking perfectly on that track where everything just comes out of God's grace, purely out of God's grace, a part of what we got to do is remove the distractions. And you named it. Cutting off social media, cutting back on food, right? Fasting. Food is a distraction. Food is definitely a distraction. Drugs, alcohol, caffeine, they all distract. Anything that is extrinsic is a distraction. The noise of the people outside, responsibilities that you took on that really don't belong to you, worries, excitements, fears. Like, you got to do your best to remove all of the distractions. And without distractions, now you're on track. And I think that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah. And I guess like what makes sense from what I'm hearing is that you don't have to do this elaborative like vision quest or workshop where you like jolt down your like life book or set goals, purpose, vision, strategy that you need to just like calm down a little bit and just like start to get a sense of what the path is for you specifically. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes, all those things are good. All those things are good to do, to think, and to support your feeling body, because all three of those things are important. What I'm talking about is your state of being,
All
because
right.
it's usually the one that we forget. If you can carry the imago Dei, the image of God, in your being while you do those things, like you said, meditate, book of life, journaling, right? For me and a lot of my clients, we do bioenergetics, breathing exercises that remove physical tension based on traumas. Like we're doing breathing and we're releasing feeling. And so those things are good and right. But from what paradigm, what mindset? Are we doing it out of personal development and a desire to change ourselves, right? To touch this finger with the tip of this finger, trying to be lords of ourselves and our own wills? Or are we doing it to remove obstructions and distractions so that we could be fully present with God? I know about these book of life things, right? Or like even there's a lot of cool things you can do. But remember, why are you doing it? So that not so that you can say you did a new thing or so that you can receive anything you didn't have, but so that you can work through the bullshit and decide what really doesn't belong. It
Yeah.
should be like a shovel. These things are like shovels that should be digging out the dirt so that the real treasure could be revealed. As long as we keep that in mind, then all those other things that we feel, do, and think will be ordered properly to your inner king.
Yeah, that's clear. And you mentioned bioenergetics, and I'm guessing widely here that I believe that you have the ability. You've been working with trauma release with people through breath work and probably other types of methodologies. I I would bet that you can see a person, specifically a man, and through his body language, how he speaks, how he moves, what types of trauma is stored in his body. Is that accurate? Would that be accurate?
That is based off the work of Wilhelm Reich called character structure. Wilhelm Reich was a student of Sigmund Freud. I don't love both of them, either of them fully. They did some bad things, but they were both actually brilliant. And
Yeah.
and Wilhelm Reich, being the lesser known, in my opinion, was even far more brilliant when it came to the science of the mind and the soul, because that's really what psychoanalysis is doing.
Mm.
Psychoanalysis is a usurpation of the sacrament of reconciliation, the confessional booth, with I don't know, a different spin on how we can resolve those things. But anyway, tangent over. Wilhelm Reich understood, or he discovered, he noticed something very fascinating. And it actually is also very consistent with Catholic teaching. But he discovered that based on the categories, the names of psychopathologies that Freud used, schizoid, oral, masochist, psychopath. There are a few others, but that's the broad spectrum. That not only were these mental, emotional defense mechanisms against the threats or perceived threats in the environment, trauma, not only were they strategies, but they then became structured in the body. So, and I hate to say it this way because it shows up in all of us in different ways, but you look like your pathology. I don't know if that's the right way to put it. Like medicalizing it and calling it a pathology is just coming from the Freudian point of view. Carl Jung might see it differently, and he might just say they're archetypes and that they're neutral, and they're showing up in you, and so you look like a magician, you look like a warrior, you look like a king or a lover. That's how each one of those four are superimposed by the language of Carl Jung. So you got to be able to see it from the clinical point of view, but also elevate it to the spiritual point of view. And so what Wilhelm Reich discovered was that each of those character structures looked like what they were. Each of those psychopathologies looked like what they were. And he called it a character structure. So for example, you and I are on two sides of the spectrum. We're very different. And I'm only taking this based on what I've seen of you through the camera here today, dude, just to be honest. But if I was
Yeah. You gotta.
characterologizing you,
I'm pulling up my guns here.
right. Yeah, the guns will tell you about someone.
I pushed some kettlebells before this interview just to get pumped.
Yeah, and even the way you dress, like the clothes you're wearing, your glasses and your hat,
Yeah.
you're operating more on the schizoid oral end of the spectrum, which is dominated more by fear. On the other side of the spectrum is the masochist and the psychopath. I carry a lot more of those traits, and it's more baked into my body and the way that I look, which is more dominated by anger. So on the oral schizoid side that you kind of embody, you're going to see certain recurring themes. Character-wise, the body's usually a bit skinnier, thinner, a little disjointed maybe, very much in the head. Very, very clever, very smart, usually very good scientists and artists, very creative people. If you lean to more a little bit towards oral, which maybe you do, I think you probably do, usually very friendly, very talkative, gets along with people, would rather not fight. Usually a good guy, a nice guy. Also, the way that you dress, it could be either you're manipulating from your schizoid because the world is your object and you're playing a game. That's how the schizoid defends himself. So he doesn't really identify fully with his body, so he can do whatever he wants with it, and it doesn't affect him at all. He just uses it as a tool. Or it's your oral side where you're actually just a flamboyant guy. Like, I got a lot of style, and this is my style. And so that would be, I would probably lunk you more into that. Like, the oral attraction, like they're usually very attractive people and go with the styles and, things of that nature. On the other end of the spectrum, the fear end of the spectrum is where you're going to get a guy like me. The masochist is usually very thick and bulky, either really fat or very muscular. Oftentimes they'll swing between both, gaining a lot of weight, getting fat and sloppy, and then shedding all the weight and getting lean and ripped again. They yo-yo. It has something to do with the energy dynamics of that character structure. I don't want to go too deep.
Yeah.
Also, the psychopath, which I carry a lot of because my dad's a psychopath and my mom's a masochist. I'm way over here on this anger spectrum. Psychopath is usually very charismatic, use their body in body language, very animated in the eyes and the face, usually very good leaders. Most politicians are psychopaths. They want to fight for the small guy, the little guy, usually like the hero, defending the weak. And so that's a little bit about that. You can see that there are psychological predispositions that are associated with each, but they literally have a body that betrays who they are at a soul level. It had the body then forms these character structures based on the way that you breathe. So the body doesn't just take these forms. Like, they can take those forms based on genetics, and epigenetics kind of like, that opens up a whole new can of worms.
Yeah.
But you could, right. Yeah. Like, are you breathing the way you're breathing because your mom breathed that way? right? And that's why your body looks like your mom's. Well, that's me. My body looks like my mom's, and I breathe the way my mom breathes. My mom is a freaking asthmatic, right? So it builds a lot of in breath and
Mm.
swelling and pressure inside the body. And so I'm full of pressure. I'm a pressure keg, but it has everything to do with the way that I breathe. My tendency is to breathe up into my neck and shoulders. And that's why I look like
Mm.
so ominous and afraid or
Mm.
scary. Oral, on the other hand, will breathe a little bit more in the chest and the throat. Oftentimes they're mouth breathers. And the shoulders sort of ran forward and the head juts forward a little bit because they're trying to suck in the air, but without their belly. The belly is usually empty. Sometimes a flat belly, belly sunk in, but not a lot of pressure, not a lot of building, not a lot of opening down in the belly. Not like me. My belly gets big. I fill up with pressure. And so the oral character structure in that dynamic that I just described breathes shallow in a different way. Where I breathe shallow on the out breath because I'm sucking in and I'm puffed up. The oral breathes shallow on the in breath. The oral is more dominated by the out breath. Look at me.
Yeah.
So empty in the belly, slumped forward because I'm pushing all the air out. So the difficult thing for the oral is to really inhale and fill up down, especially down below into the belly. And the challenge for the psychopath is to actually breathe out because we're always puffed up on an inhale. So that's a little bit about that.
Yeah. What I wanted to get at is when you can, like, quote unquote, diagnose people through watching their body language, maybe their style, their constitution. What issues do you mostly see in men these days? What are men struggling with without them even knowing it, that they are struggling with this? Do you see
So
like a common thread?
it, are you asking me like which character structure is most dominant in men today?
Yeah, and if you've seen a shift as well. And I'm thinking about this because I'm seeing, like, in Stockholm, I don't know what if it has to do with the water pollution, that there are a lot of birth control pills getting into the water supply, and the guys are super female. Like, they are like really thin up here, and they are getting a little bit of a belly. Maybe it's because they are drinking beer and they get like these exceeded levels of estrogen in their systems. I have no idea. That's so I'm asking, like, from that point of view that you just described, and your ability to look at people from your lens. So what have you seen that is like a trend that is going up, or something that has shifted during a longer period of time?
Yeah. So here's what I'll say. You're going to find a predominance of a certain character type in different parts of the world, in different interest groups that you may be a part of, right? In different sports that you may play, in the type of people that you attract to yourself. Like orals are usually really attracted to psychopaths. So I get a lot of oral guys that come to my programs. I don't get as many psychopaths because psychopaths are repelled by other psychopaths.
Yeah.
Right. So what I'm saying is I don't notice that it's a generational thing, like it's a zeitgeist, like men are becoming more of one or the other. But for sure, depending on like what you said in terms of Sweden, There's epigenetics, there's genetics, and there's the general environment of the culture, right? Both what we're ingesting and what we're thinking, you know, what we're given here and what we're given there. But I will say that there's one character structure that I left out, and I left it out for good reason. And it's because it's almost omnipresent. It sort of it covers all of the four other character structures. Like it's more there. It shows up more across the board now than ever before, based on the zeitgeist. And I didn't even tell you the name of it because like everyone has a little bit of this, some more than others. So I don't think it's a true character structure. It's a demon of our day. Let me put it that way. So I have a lot of theories about why that's the case, but I'll spare you. And it, gosh, because I'm talking. It's narcissism.
Yeah.
The narcissist. And in the man, Freud believed that narcissism showed up differently in men and women. And he would call the male narcissist the phallic. He said the phallic narcissist, phallic meaning phallus, penis, and the hysterical narcissist, which he called the woman. And they displayed maybe a different set of behaviors. But I don't, along with many other experts, no longer believe that's the case. We have sort of a combined narcissism that shows itself up in the same way, like it comes from the same root, though it may manifest differently in men and in women. And women embody it a lot more in our culture. It's narcissism in this way, in this context, is a lot more effeminate. It comes from a female spirit, narcissism. Because women, so why? Why am I saying that? So women are more solipsistic, meaning that they've got to protect themselves by all means. And so they have to put themselves first. Not that they have to, but the fallen woman, the base woman, us at our lowest and most primal, which still exists within us. For them, it's all about survival. And in their mind, survival requires being able to manipulate their environment by all means, but all towards one selfish end, which is it's all about me. And so women are more selfish by nature, not good or bad, but they are. And even the way that men respond and react to them, they're more selfish because they have to be they're more self-aware because they're constantly on display in order to attract a man. So that's why they wear makeup. Like it's very narcissistic to be wearing makeup and high heels. Like, who the fuck are you to be trying to trick us with your made up image that you want me to believe is actually you? That's not actually you. But we take it for granted. Women wear makeup. Why? For their own self-preservation, meaning can I find a mate by hiding who I actually am? Like that's not how you look. All the boob implants and butt implants and likable suction, it's born out of female narcissism. Right? In its in its female form and it's most potent. But with the advent of social media, we've seen it proliferate in the most effeminate ways, also in men at a high degree. Like men taking pictures and having to look at their pictures before they post it on social media. Like this is one of the things like we joke about in my family, right? Like my wife likes to take pictures and put on Facebook of the whole family. And I got 3 daughters and a son. And when they were done taking pictures, me and my son walk away. and the three girls are gathered around looking at it like, okay, which pictures are good? Don't put that one, put this one, don't put that one. Oh, I look terrible in this one. Oh, you look beautiful in that one. Oh, you should, and that's what they're doing. It's just baked into their nature. But when men start doing that, that's not inherent in our nature. It's been snuck in because of social media. And so we become more narcissistic. So that's the female form of narcissistic showing up in men, that our image is more important than who we are, right? The way we look is more important than who we are. But that's more of a newfangled form of narcissism. The narcissism, the phallic narcissism that Freud spoke about, had and the energy dynamics has everything has to do with holding oneself back from being vulnerable with your feelings. And so that everything that we do comes from a place of power, so that we can project false power as a defense, an offensive defense mechanism against exposing our own vulnerability. And I think a part of the reason why he called it phallic is because it shows up most readily and most obviously in the sexual act. In the sexual act, the man is charged with the burden of performance. And so it's his responsibility to do whatever he can in, sexual exchange to give his woman pleasure. And the best way to do that, if you're a feeling person, is to pull yourself back away from the feeling. Think about baseball. Do breathing. Don't let the feeling cramp up.
Yeah.
And what that does is it allows the dick to become a tool rather than an organ of nuptial union and love. It becomes a scratch tool or a tickle tool to get off your girl. And then there's
Yeah.
pride. There's pride associated with that. And if we can't do that, our sense of self can be diminished. And so then that's phallic narcissism. I am judged by what I can do for you. I am not worthy of love by who I am, from who I am, by my being. I have to perform. I got to make money. Otherwise, you're not going to love me. I got to be strong. Otherwise, you're not going to love me. I got to perform. Otherwise, you're not going to love me. And I don't have time to cry. I don't have time to feel. And I go second. I'm less important. And I want to put you on a pedestal because you're the woman. And I want to impress and not lose you. So it's deep rooted in our sexual nature. But then as, social media and if you're an influencer like you and I, and it becomes a serious trap, it's, did they like my video? Oh, my video's not going viral. Oh, why is nobody commenting on my picture? I spent all this time on this post and no one's reading it. Oh, you're not valued by who you are. You're valued by what you're producing. And that trap is called narcissism. You're more identified with the image of yourself than the real you.
So interesting, and there are like so many spin-offs from what you're talking about here. But due to like the time limit we have here today, I just want to get in the question of how do you work with the men? Because you are conducting a workshop, if I heard it correctly, in Amsterdam quite soon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so what issues do men have that seeks your help, and what do you help them with? I'm curious about how you help dudes.
The biggest challenge for the men that hire me and that I work with in my offers usually manifests itself in a lack of clarity and direction in life. Like, what should I do? Who should I marry? How should I do it? How should I find her? Why am I here? What am I actually doing? Why am I not happy even though I have the things that I want? Why is my wife not happy even though I'm giving her everything that she wants? What's going on? It's a lack of clarity. And then from that lack of clarity is a lack of direction because you don't know what to do if you're not clear. And so these questions, they just anchor and they don't go away. They just grow in intensity or in complexity. Like if you weren't sure that you were marrying the right woman when you were 21, 22, and you carry that with you and now you're 52 and you're having a quote unquote midlife crisis, it's because you didn't have the clarity in the beginning and now it's come back to bite you. So how do I work with men in order to help them get the clarity that they would need in order to not make bad decisions that are off their path, i.e. no distractions, and how to get back on their path when they've fallen off or are about to do something crazy because they don't know what to do, or tell them to keep going when there's nothing to do. Well, that's what it is a lot of times. A lot of times the problem is not what my life is. It's why am I trying to create a new problem to solve? Most guys are on the right path. A lot of guys, most of them that come to me, like they know what to do. And a lot of times they're doing it, but they're confused because there's too many voices and too many options and too many things to think about and feel about and be confused. So my work is to help them eliminate the confusion, get to the core, get to the truth, get to the you that knows. So we got to get things out of the way. And there are layers of getting things out of the way. Of course, I'm usually just talking on Zoom. So when we're talking on Zoom, we get things out of the way through Q&A, questions. And it's usually me asking more questions and listening. The cool thing is that when you ask the right questions and someone gets to speak and they can hear themselves deliver the answer, all of a sudden a light bulb goes off and they're like, duh, of course. It sounds so logical now that I'm saying it. Duh, what was I thinking? I'm just helping you undo the knots. It's tough to be able to see ourselves, right? Once again, it's tough to touch the tip of this finger with this finger. It's tough to do that. You can't do that. It's better to get another finger to tap it for you. And then you're like, oh, that's how it feels. And so a lot of ways, that's all I'm doing is just being a mirror and helping you see what's already in front of you, which is you. But it's hard to see. It's the hardest person to see is you and me. So that's the mental, but then there's the emotional. And we could come to all the most rational and perfect answers, but if you're still carrying angst, you're still carrying anger, and you're not breathing deeply, you're going to feel like shit. And you're going to wonder why. This is often the case many times. I'm doing everything that's right, but I'm not happy. If you could clear the clutter in the mind, a lot of times it's you're carrying old emotional baggage. It's not that you're not happy. It's that you don't feel good. And when you don't feel good, you come up with a story to help you understand why you feel that way. So I'm not happy. Right? A lot of times we have feelings that have no context at all because they're old. They come from they could be generations old. These feelings, these fears. They could be old in your life, like it was from a trauma, or it could be from your DNA, your ancestry. That fear is still in there. So you could be looking around at your life and everything is literally all right. And in your brain, you're like, damn, I should be happy, but I'm not. How are you feeling? Right? And then processing those feelings. Even without context, you don't even need to know why you feel what you feel. You just need to allow yourself to feel it so it could pass through. And then reveal the real you that's void of this old feeling, this unresolved feeling. And then your life can go on just as it was before, but now you feel good because you're not carrying the baggage. So again, it's helping you get out of your own way. And so that's kind of what I've been doing these days.
Awesome. So I wanna thank you so much for this time today, and you clarified a bunch of things I've been feeling, pondering. I'm like in this transition phase of not becoming a woman, transition phase
Yeah.
of just evolving as a man, and I'm exploring this topic because I've been like since I was a young kid working towards becoming more of a man and what was a man. And I had like this dad that was like super masculine, and when he spoke it sounded like thunder, and we had like
Yeah.
this mad respect for him. And I was this like more feminine boy. People thought I was gay. I was not comfortable in my own skin. And if you see me like compared from before and today, like I'm 100% comfortable in my own skin. And that is what I want to just like bring to other men, how to do that. Like if it's through martial arts, breathing techniques, emotional healing techniques like EFT or NLP, hypnosis and stuff like that. So I love exploring this topic, and you have been in the forefront of this. And I know so many guy friends in my circle look up to you, appreciate you, and it's not so much your words; it's like your essence. You're just like connected to something, and I appreciate you and that you are showing up and giving this out to the world, and uh, and especially to the Swedish listeners, I know you will uh, aggravate a lot of listeners and a lot of people here because it's like woo land here in Sweden. It's completely crazy, and it's like the country where we pour the most money into science about gender science and gender equality. So it has gone a little bit mad here, and what I can say from listening to my female friends is that all of them are longing for real strong men, and they want to be held. And in the days when I was single and I was like into the pickup scene, I always asked the women that I started dating, what attracted you to me? And all of them said it was when you took me. And that is like really hard to say here in Sweden. It's like politically incorrect. So I want to just say I appreciate you for being that trailblazer, showing the way, being authentic, and also vulnerable, which I see a lot of in your videos. And like, thank you so much for showing up today. And one last thing for people that feel that like this resonated with them, what you're saying, and want to connect with you. What's the best way to connect with you?
Well, my name is Elliot Hulse. ELLIOTTHULSE. And you can find me on YouTube if you like to hear my yapping, or you go to my website, which is my name.com. And you can click my links and hire me, work with me, or come to my events.
And we'll put all of that in the show notes. Thanks,
Nice.
brother. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.